Hello, everybody. This is Ashley Jacobs with the Central Alabama Bigfoot Research Organization, and this is Expeditions for Answers. Last week, we had Patrick Vaugn on with us with some very interesting encounters and information about his background. And this gentleman he knows his stuff. I've gotten to know him over the last few weeks, and he's a great guy. He's upfront, he's honest, he knows his stuff. And I figured tonight we would get into his research aspect and just kind of dwell on that and see how things go. And hopefully it'll be a good interview. That is, if we don't glitch and turn into Max Headroom.
Yeah, the way the day's been.
Yeah, and of course, I got to give a shout out to my production guru and co-host Gary Spikes over there.
Who's that?
I don't know, some guy that gets on my nerves on a regular.
You know you love me.
So, Patrick, how you been this week?
It's been a full week, just doing the J job and keeping the fires going and pushing things forward. But I'm pretty tired, honestly. I'm tired of this time of year we're just flooded.
Oh yeah,
but
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I thought we'd get into something informative as far as research or setting up the research or setting yourself up for success in the field, and all the things that I personally ran into that hindered me or helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Just to start off. And if I step on someone's toes, I don't mean to. This is just how I had to approach things to be able to push the subject forward as a study.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into the, after an encounter, you're shocked. Okay, you have this. There's no way that happened. But then what in the world did I just see?
Yeah.
And so you have a whole bunch of questions and no answers. And so you'll start armchair researching, listening to people talk, what do they have to say that's similar to what you experience. And then when you start getting into that, you'll start getting into other areas of the community that surrounds this topic. And you'll hear all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to ground yourself and understand exactly what you can research and what you don't have the tools to research.
Yes.
And that defines your approach on things. My approach is naturalistic as a flesh and blood animal that does not rule out supernatural things about it. If it leads to supernatural things, it's fine. I'm not a closed-minded person, but I do not have a portal detection system. I do not have anything that can chase down a UFO and look to see if one got off.
Yeah.
All I can do is approach this from a physical standpoint. And any researcher really worth his salt, has to find his own way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're serious about it, if you're serious about really getting to the truth. And I couldn't listen to someone tell me the truth. I had to start at the basement level, just like building a tower. I started at the basement level, cleared the area and built a strong foundation of, is this real?
I need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're serious.
Sorry about that.
Is this real? I couldn't take someone tell me it's real, even though I saw what I saw. I had to go out and try to debunk what this is. Now, someone, the very first encounter story I ever heard someone personally told me about his experience, and he spent 2 years chasing nothing, chasing and never found anything. And that was something I didn't want to do. So I stumbled across the idea of single knock. You have to have a catalyst to put in there to make things happen. You cannot chase one of these things down, evidently, because this guy spent 2 years in the dark with every gadget he could think of buying and never saw another one. So, I learned from, and that's not making fun of the guy, that he had a negative result. Okay, you have a positive result and you have a negative result in real world mathematics as you apply it to a real world situation, just like you do in a scientific laboratory. And every result matters. A negative result means something just like a positive. And so he had a negative result. So I developed a way to bring about and solicit responses, which was single knock. And I don't care if you're using vocals or single knock or something. You have to have something to be able to bring them into an area and make observations of their behavior, what they do and what they don't do, because what they don't do is just as important as what you witness them doing. And so, taking that approach sets a level, and then you have a lot of people pouring in. They keep telling you, I've had arguments over, well, they go through portals, they go through this. I can't detect that. I have to you got to keep your feet grounded. And this is just the preliminary. This isn't even getting into the actual field. This is just your mindset and where my mindset was anyway. You may have a different way you're thinking or how you want to approach it, but my mindset is to be grounded and to proceed forward so that when something comes in, it doesn't turn into disinformation that makes me send me down a blind alley, and then I got to backtrack back out of it and then proceed forward. That's a mouthful.
Though.
Huh?
I said it was informative, though.
So now once you figure out how you want to approach this being, and you have the groundwork laid for this, and I use single knock, you may use vocals, and some individuals only want to use vocals. I've run into that, but whatever it is, I did not want to. I'm being very careful how I put this, because I don't want to take what I do and throw it in your lap and say, you got to do it this way, because you don't. But this is what I did. I decided that I did not want to be intrusive. I didn't want to go deep in the woods, knocking, yelling, being provocative, and have a bad outcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went on aerial maps. I would target an area for investigation, and I'd find an improved area, either a rock road, a dim road. A dim road is just some people call them a 2-track. They're not rocked. They're just somewhere, a road that someone built in there, or a log landing. If you have logging industry around you, if you have an abandoned logging landing that you have access to, that's a great area to do investigation from. But somewhere that when they walk into the area, they know they can encounter man and they're not surprised. And you have an egress point. You can have a vehicle there that you can get in and leave if something gets sketchy. That was my approach. And someone say something. I lost my train of thought.
Egress point, you can move into move into an area unobtrusively and also give you a way out just in case things turn sour.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to. You can go out in the woods and do whatever you want to do. This is just, from the safety standpoint of things is how I look at it. And if you're taking someone out there with you, you're responsible for their safety.
Absolutely.
You got to get them in and you got to get them out. And so from a safety standpoint, from working from an improved area, with an egress point that you don't want to get cut off from your truck. I had that happen once. It's not fun. And you have to, depending on which way you're going, if you're knocking or if you're using vocals, it takes a while to work out why they're doing what they're doing. Why are they doing what they're doing? What does it mean? And it took quite a few years of figuring out just one group. This is a common mistake, and I got into it. I was involved in this to going all over the world, going all over the place, and having this encounter at this state, and this encounter in this state, and this encounter in this state, and not learning anything about that group that meant anything.
Good point.
Now I have a core group that I study, and that's my control. I do not disrespect them or run any experiments against them. I simply poke them a little bit and see how they react. Mm-hmm. I'll go in, I'll sit quietly by a fire, do a knock, let them come in. They look at me, I look at them and see what they want to do. And they're studying me as much as I'm studying them. Now I leave that area. Now, what is handy is to know other areas where these beings are, because then you can go and you can do experiments there, and things that you can't do with your core group that'd be disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I don't care if I make this other group mad. It's just less consequential to me. Okay. I can go in and make them mad, and then I can leave, and I can be gone I can go to another area, and make my rounds. But having a group that you find and being respectful to, really teaches you a lot, because, I've said it before, once they know, it all changes. When you can go in the woods and do what you want to do, and they don't want you to know they're there. But if they think that that's when they're not going to hide anymore. Mm-hmm. They're going to come up yelling, screaming, knocking, do what they want to do, get out of the area. They use an intimidation factor. And you have to be cautious, but not intimidated to be able to research.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of times when you go into a situation like that, staying calm and being respectful, I guess you could say, to their area, kind of, yeah. It sets that tone to where maybe they'll back off and just let you do your thing.
Well, the biggest barrier, there's two huge barriers that a researcher runs into. The biggest barrier is making contact. Okay. Making them make contact. You can go in the woods and they're there. You can walk through their area. They're not going to let you know you're there, that they are there. I went into an area tracking one, knew it was there. It circled me. I knew what hill it was on in the dark and yelled at it for 45 minutes before it ever got irritated enough to make contact with me. And
All
it
right, enough already.
yeah, it did not want me to know it's there, but I was tracking it. I already knew, you know. So, making that forcing them to make that first contact and how they make it is important. And it's hard. I used to go to an area and do 5 minutes worth of knocks. If I didn't get anything, I'd move down the road. Well, I learned from tracking that they were there. I'd go in there and I would knock. I knocked at one place probably almost an hour. A knock every minute and a half for an hour before it finally broke out into a knock sequence. And what's up, Christy? How you doing?
A little greeting to all of us from her.
I wish you were on here.
Oh, I'm gonna get both of y'all on here at the same time so we can really get crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, if you go into an improved area and just sit there and knock every minute and a half for an hour, you're going to hear something. If they're in the area, if you've done your due diligence and your homework, you pick an area that has elevation, has a water barrier between where man enters the woods and the elevation they're hanging out on. That's just part of their criteria. But, in my tracking, I have found so many places that, and it's scary. It's really concerning because I can go in and I'll find the occasional 16-inch plus track. But the majority, 2/3 of what I'm finding is between 7 and 9.5 inches. That means that these young got to go off and find more area. So they're competing in the same area that we're competing for. And so as far as the safety aspect of it is, and one reason why I do this is awareness. Anytime two species are competing in the same area for the same resources, friction is inevitable. It's inevitable. So, yeah, that's how I approached research, and getting started and being successful. I didn't go out there and knock for an hour to get one knock, and then it leaves out, and then go home and scratch my head.
Yeah.
Okay, I click a light on and I go out there tracking. I find what was there to confirm what was there or not. Because for a long time in the back of my mind, there's no way this is real. This can't be happening.
And this has been 17 years that you've been doing this pretty much since your first encounter?
Yeah.
Or 18 now. If I keep forgetting we're in 2021. So yeah, you're on 18 years now. Just real quick question. When you're in a situation, say something's happening while you're tracking and it's something you're not familiar with, it's never happened before. How often do you have that light bulb go off and you're like, hey, let me try this? Or do you back off, go home and just kind of sit back and think, maybe I should approach it this way, or, come up with different ideas and then go back and try that?
You're absolutely right about that. Sometimes when I'm hitting on all cylinders and I can, and you really got to think on your feet around these things, but interpretation is what takes time.
Mm.
And sometimes I can interpret what they do and I can react pretty quick.
Yeah.
But when they come in and they do something, it takes a little while to sit and think about, and you got to think, and this is what takes time. Why did it do what it did, and why didn't it do what I thought it should do? Why didn't it do what it could have done with its capabilities? So you have 3 different, fingers of thought out there, 3 different avenues of thought, and by the time you weigh them all out and boil them all down, then you're like, oh well, I should have done this. Like and I'll give you two good examples of this. Southern Arkansas, my tracker partner and I are standing there, and we got a group of people there with a camera, and we're watching one 115 yards in the starlight. We can see it. It's big, it's massive, it's black, glowing red eyes looking at us. It turns, it walks. It does, it does that, and then it leaves out. I had a LED Q-beam spotlight in my pocket. Why didn't I just pull it out and shine the thing? Okay. Now I kicked myself for about 6 months over that. Man, I can't believe I just pulled my spotlight out and go, But 6 months after that, I'm tracking again. I'm actually on the Arkansas border between Louisiana and Arkansas. I'm tracking, and I walk up on one within 6 feet. I'm tracking at night, and I have the same Q beam that was in my pocket that night is in my hand. It's shining down on the ground, and I walk up and I start noticing two sets of pupils watching where my light is shining, and it's two Bigfoot. I shine it in the eyes, and it stands up, and I'm backing up. I'm startled.
I would assume so. Yeah.
I'm startled. Now, here's the thing. I have a plan now, and it took me probably a couple of months to come up with it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna recreate this, and instead of shine it in the eyes, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk behind it and just circle it, looking on the ground. And if it stands there, you'll be able to silhouette it with the light to the people behind you who have a video camera. And so, yeah, and so much is learned in retrospect and hindsight. You go out, you do knocking, it comes in, it knocks at you, you knock at it a while and it leaves. Well, what I designed after that is that I do a knock, I hear it knock, and I count backwards how long it took it to knock from when I knocked, and I knock again instead of doing every minute to a minute and a half. And it'll knock. And then every 10 seconds, I'm knocking and it's knocked. So every 20 seconds, it's knocking back at me. And I get more knocks. I can track it through the dark and listen to it knock, how hard it knocks. And also, when it comes in closer, this helped me discern that also that knock is really a conversation, because when it got closer, it got softer. It didn't step up in my face and go, hey, yelling at me. As it got closer, it would go to a much subtler knock, more subtle knock. So that helped me understand that knock is actually a conversation you're having, and where your feet are and where its feet are is extremely important. And there's multiple ways of using single knock, and a single knock is actually more complex than the 2 or 3, knocks scenarios, because you can say, hey, a whole bunch of ways.
When you, since you've been to so many different states doing the research, and, like you say, you can track them with the knock. Do you find that the different terrain affects maybe, kind of the pitch and the direction that you hear things? Because I know, depending on where you are, sometimes a knock over there kind of sounds like it's coming from over here. And, just different things like that. So, I mean, how much does terrain and just the different states and how, things are, how does that affect the way you approach it?
It comes down to sound waves. You're going to have to not just research Bigfoot. You have to research the light waves, length of light waves, all the light waves that are in our atmosphere. You're going to have to research acoustics. A sound made here bounces over there and winds up over here. And so you have to research and make yourself very familiar with all this. You are an instrument. Okay, you're not a person out there, a weekend warrior You're not someone out there who's got high heel boots and some short pants and a tank top, guzzling beer, and I'm talking about serious research. You're an instrument. When you step out there, I use all of my senses, every one of them. I close my eyes and I take a deep breath, and I listen to as far as I can hear until I hear the hum of the woods that is in the silence that surrounds you. And I discern out everything that I'm hearing and identifying it from far out to close. And then I am centered, my feet are grounded, and I use that as I'm tracking. And anything that disturbs that vibration or hum of the silence, that right there, I'll pay attention to it, because it's way out there. You'll hear just a click, and you'll pay attention to it. And if that click keeps getting closer, then you know to tune in, and you also know what direction it's coming from. It helps you because you're in tune with your environment. Harry, you want to say something?
I'm really glad you said that, because I do the same exact thing. And I've had people, I'm standing there with my eyes closed. I'm getting focused, getting all that absorbed in, and people are like, what are you doing? It's like, just let me do my thing. If you don't understand it, then, don't knock it. But you should try it, because it helps. It really does. It's like that center of gravity for you, where you can actually start expanding and get that world that you're in. So yeah, I'm real. Thank you for saying that you do that, because now I don't feel like I'm the only one standing in the middle of the woods going, yeah.
That's a skill set that I think in society and sociological standings that we have grown apart. We have gotten more into this, like I am tonight, over on the computers and stuff, and we have stepped away from that class. It's bred into us genetically and psychologically. We have just stepped away from that. I think if a lot of researchers would open their mind a little bit and just slow down a little bit, they would be able to do that, a lot quicker and a lot easier. I find myself, I spend so much time in the city that it takes me longer if I'm not in the woods, at least once every couple of 3 days. Like Patrick, he's out there quite a bit, but it takes me, the longer I spend away from it, the longer it takes me to get back into it. And I think we need to tune ourselves into it a lot more. And I think we get a lot more evidence as researchers if we did hone those skills to the level. We'll never hone them to the level that the target species is, but we could definitely improve our own standing in nature if we hone those skills.
Yeah, it's like blind people, their senses as far as hearing and being able to tell distances and directions, and the way people work, if they don't have one sense and the others become heightened, that's something that we need to do anyway, just in case, because we need to make sure that whatever it is, we can adjust, and we can listen better. We can smell something. We can see it if we can't hear it. So it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. It's a really good thing to do.
Absolutely. I am nothing special. I am just a person. Just, some people are like, oh, tracking's cool. I'm gonna tell you what, it's a good skill set to have, but it's a humbling skill set.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a humble person, really, to submit yourself to the developments that called you into that area to do this job. You submit yourself to someone saying, go here, find that. You might as well tell, some people, they don't respond very well when you say fetch, So you got to be humble. You got to be kind. You got to be understanding. And, and human. You got to be human. But the modern pace, just like Gary said, the modern pace of society has trained us so much to produce. You got 24 hours a day, so many hours in a day, so many minutes in an hour, so many seconds, and you have to produce, and so much gets blocked out. Now, when you get out in the woods, and it took me probably 3 or 4 years getting into the primitive living skills thing, subject I study, to actually slow down and realize that I am outpacing the natural world and making a fool of myself. You really have to slow down and move in the time that nature gives you to move, and work with what's going on instead of running over it and being so mechanical and demanding this, demanding that, because you got to be out of here by 5 and back to work by whatever time. That's why I like taking the vacation off. Vacation, and the first little while, I'm putting my modern mindset that trains you not to pay attention to disturbances. Okay, you have whistles, you have train horns, you have flashing lights, you have construction going on, you have jackhammers, everything that you pass in your daily commute or wherever you're going teaches you that's none of your business. Don't pay attention to it. Okay. Now, when you get out in nature, every single thing is there for a reason. This leaf is turned for this reason. This rock is scuffed over for this reason. This blade of grass is bent over for this reason. And so, and you got to slow yourself down and appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. That was hard for me to do. It took a couple of years for me to do it. But then finally, I can get out of my truck. And when I change clothes, I wear buckskins, I change clothes. I close my eyes. I leave that modern person back there. And I am just a primitive hunter, gatherer, survivalist, with my wits and my skills. And that slows my pace down as I'm walking. I can't tell you how many people I've tracked with that run up in front of me, because they got to produce, and I'm just like, just stay to the side, and just got to slow down and work the equation. And Christy Sci-Fi was wanting to talk about six knocks. And I've had people that heard and experienced things that were not in tune or were not slowed down enough mentally to appreciate what happened, to where they said, that could just be anything. Even a whoop. Oh, that whoop. Oh, that didn't happen. And that's also coupled with, and I'm not talking bad about anybody. I'm just talking, the awareness thing is so important as a researcher.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked this question a while back, probably 8 months ago. When do I get to start calling this what it is? Okay. I got people, and I understand not labeling a blind sound, but if you go out and you have an experience and you go tracking, it's 5 toes and it's a 17-inch track that's cutting across this bottomland, I'm going to call it what it is, and that may be controversial. I don't know, but that was to lead into this bottom that where I was tracking at. And it's not just 6 knocks. The person did the audio actually missed a roar in front of the 6 knocks. Now, the 6 knocks, we had people say, well, it sounds like gunfire. It's actually a 3 knot, 6 knot, 3 knot. I know 3 knocks is danger warning, get out of the area. I don't know what 6 knocks is, but it was sandwiched between another 3 knock. So 3 knocks, 6 knocks, 3 knocks, 6 knocks. I perceive it to be either a warning of what's going to happen if we do not obey the 3 knocks, or a specific reason why we're getting the 3 knocks that I don't understand. Because it's 6 knock, it's 3 knock, 6 knock, 3 knock. But in that audio, that specific audio, and you see it in the waveform, there's a
Like an actual clapping?
no, it was a knocking.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
I'm just tired of saying knock.
No, I got you on that. That's almost like they're ready to go to DEFCON 1 and just start,
Well, this was after he got shot at, or shot. Because he got shot by a road hunter or shot at. I'm not sure which. I didn't get to inspect anything. But that was a stressful situation for me and them. It took a long time to get close to him after that, and they had a home site back there, and I was tracking up to their home site, and there's a water barrier, and there's an X there, and we're actually headed to that X. We're headed from where we're at to the X when we got that warning. And I wasn't too worried. I know the individual that did it. I wasn't too worried, but then again, it was concerning. Not only because this is my core study group, but I just got a real bad threat. And he's big enough to do it. So yeah, that was interesting. That's actually on the North Louisiana expedition videos. What that is on. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, doing the 6 knock, I could understand with like a 3 knock real fast, but a 6 knock, I mean, that goes against everything, even tactfully and survival. Usually 1 hit, 2 hit, or 3 hit, you can hide your location. But 6 knocks, that's a real drawn out sound or something like that. And to repeat that, it has to have a very serious significance in their communicational culture, for lack of better terms. It really has to be, because you're doing like 6 knocks. That gives you time to actually pinpoint the location. So I'm almost wondering if it maybe could be like a massive location.
Could be
signal, saying, hey, I'm hurt, I'm here, come get me, or something along that lines.
Yeah, I was about to say that, because that it kind of goes along with the whole rule of engagement when you're fighting. You give 1 shot, but you don't shoot again.
Yeah,
because that second shot gives your location away. So when you're really banging on a tree, it's like kind of a flare going up, saying, hey, I'm right here, come get me.
Well, he was just across the bottom. We were probably 100 yards off a creek. He was 100 yards the other side of the creek, up on elevation. So it sounded off real well. There was no mistaking it. It was beating a tree to death. It was loud.
So it had good.
Oh yeah.
Going down into the slope and everything. So.
Oh yeah.
That's a good acoustic. Wave right there that just gives it room to travel. And.
Oh yeah, the sound waves propagated, through that bottom just amazingly. But yeah, that was an interesting time. And you're always torn as a researcher. Do I label this? Do I because I'm gonna tell you right now, my world's worst pet peeve is I was watching a show and this guy's going to watch. Don't tell me what it is. Show me the facts, and then I'll have my own decision to make. Whether you're full of it or not. And so I do my best not to label it a Squatch unless it can't be anything else.
Mhm.
You know, I really do beat my own research to death and get anything out of it that I can debunk.
Mhm.
And then I say, okay, that's a Squatch. You know, it's like getting whooped at it. You know, when I was camped out. What's out there that's gonna come up there and do 2 sets of 2 knocks and go whoop. You know, now you got to understand scientifically, I already proved what's knocking out there because I did several years of just a knock study until one walked into a firelight. So I know it's knocking. You know, there's no question about what's there or what's doing it for me. You know, even though if I can sit here and say it and people, and people say, you know what, you're on drugs, you're high, you're delusional, this isn't true. And that's fine. I am perfectly capable of accepting that response because in 2002, that was me. There's no way these are real. You're full of it.
And then you jumped aboard the crazy train.
Crazy train tried to run over me.
Yeah, it'll do that, especially when it just comes out and you're not expecting it. It's the last thing you're expecting, really, when you're just out and about, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, you know, you're thinking about shrimp or steak. What you gonna have for dinner? Next thing you know, you're running for a mile out of the woods. You know,
Y'all quit talking about dinner. I haven't ate all day.
You get chased a mile out of the woods. The last thing you want to do is eat after that. Probably just change your drawers.
I didn't stop. I think I went home and sat there. I was in shock for a while, but I did later go back and get that succulent coconut shrimp. But when you bite into it, you taste the sweetness of the coconut, and it's real battered. You know, big old juicy steak. You know, you cut into it, and juices just run everywhere. Yeah, it was. Oh, and they had crab boiled broccoli.
You know what? I need to make an excuse to come down there to, research, but actually hit up a crawfish bowl.
Yeah.
Boy, I miss my bowls.
Hey, what?
Fish in Alabama. What are you talking about?
No, you don't. That's crayfish.
That's crayfish. Yep.
There's
nothing like a Louisiana crawfish bowl.
Nothing
like it.
You don't want to know what we call them. My family calls them over here in Oklahoma.
Ditch bugs.
Mud bugs.
Mud bugs, yeah. I mean, they're called that down in Louisiana too.
You know, that might be where we kind of got ours because our family came from like Louisiana area and kind of split out, but Louisiana, Missouri, and
yeah, we used to go catch them and we put them in a trap for 24 hours and let them purge themselves, and then pull them out and do a salt bath purge and boil them. Oh my goodness! Oh, yeah. And right before you pull them, you throw a cup of ice water in there, and the bowl stops, and you yank them out.
Have you ever driven past like the patties, the actual for crawfish farms?
Yeah, we had a guy try that up here. I don't think he made it. We
had to go to DeRidder one time, and that's like in the middle of nowhere between Lake Charles and New Iberia. I mean, it literally, that's not that long of a drive from there. Yeah. But just to get to this one point way back in, it was 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And boy, when I tell you, and we had to go through, the little farm areas, the crawfish farms, and they were just everywhere on the road. You couldn't even see blacktop. It was just, they were crushed everywhere from people driving by. But yeah, we used to have a lot of fun. Just you in the mood for it, you drive down the road, you find somebody selling them out the back of their truck.
Yeah.
Hey, you think Bigfoot grabs them and eats them?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that we would eat in a survival situation, I'm sure they eat that and more,
Yeah, if they like them spicy or just straight out of the shell. You think they pinch the tail and suck the heads?
They probably toss everything in.
I got a funny one on that one. Sasha has a trail that comes on the very back side of a pond,
Mm-hmm.
and with that comes up, and there's a flood stage area there. It's not a planned one, but it's what it does, and there's crawfish all over there.
Yeah.
And I can track her going into those crawfish holes. And as she's putting little Samantha, she's putting her down while she's grabbing them, and then picking little Samantha back up.
That's interesting. Because, you know, I mean, until we started talking about that, I never thought of them really going after crawfish. You know, of course, any kind of, you know, fish or something, you know, even maybe a water snake, you know, just if they can grab it and kill it, whatever. But I just never thought of them, you know, actually reaching down and grabbing them.
I don't know of anything that's off their list of you know what they'll eat. You know, snakes, frogs, deer, hogs. I haven't found them eating alligators. I haven't found them do that. They may, but I don't know.
That is one thing. I mean, you know, people have kind of done that, like, you know, Godzilla versus Mantra kind of scenario, talking about Bigfoot versus a gator. And I kind of wonder, you know, if the gator's big enough, you know, for all the pounds of pressure when they clamp down, I kind of wonder if they could actually take a Bigfoot out.
I think they could probably maim one, but I doubt they'd take it out.
Well, that's, you know, there's too many variables. There are too many situations. It's like you see videos of jaguars going up against alligators sometimes, or other animals, and alligators going up against water buffaloes. You know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think, like you said, honestly, I think a Sasquatch would be big enough and intelligent enough. Wild animals just don't attack each other for no reason. It would take an awful big alligator and an awful small Sasquatch for them to even be in the same territory, because they would avoid each other.
And since they're also very, I guess you could say, sensitive to what's around them, I don't think, you know, a croc or an alligator could sneak up on them like they do, you know, things that are on the bank drinking or whatever it may be, and how they just pop it, you know, out of the water and grab them.
Real good.
So, you know, yeah, I think that they're, you know, we've already discussed how their situational awareness just, you know, we're nowhere near it. And so I honestly can't think of anything that would possibly sneak up on them.
No. I don't know anybody that can chase one down. You know, now I have most of my experiences. I might take a break for a second. My sugar's dropping. I'll be right back.
You okay?
Not right now. I'll be right back.
All right. Take your time.
I forgot he's had a hard day, had a hard week. But like he was saying, nothing's on the run these things down. I mean, I've heard of stories. I've not verified it myself, but I've heard of stories of these things keeping up with a car up to like 35 and 40 mile an hour easily on 2 feet. And they say they're faster on 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, there's very few animals, and they say they run down deer. You know, Patrick has got a story of where he tracked one that ran down a deer. See if we can get him to talk about it. But
I know that audio that, you know, we caught of the galloping, you know, where it sounded like a Clydesdale. It was quick. It wasn't just like a trot. I mean, it was like a full, you know, flat out, just hard run. And
absolutely,
it was just, you know, that blew my mind because, you know, yeah, of course you think of them getting down on all fours, but then you don't think of them as being like just stealth and fast.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's what can't they do is what gets me, you know. I mean, that's, you know, like he was talking about, you know, the dimensions, wormholes, whatever. But
Well, and
I don't believe in any of that. Like I said, I believe that they are.
I'm not going to put it out of context. I'm going to keep it in my back of my mind. I lean towards the physical side of it. I'm going to say that I'm on the fence, because I do, you've studied the paranormal, for lack of better terms, probably as long as I have. But I think you said a very good point is what can they not do? They have millennia of genetic attributes that has led them to be the way they are, and physical attributes. And then you add on the intelligence level that the target species has. That, to me, that's the reason I like saying they're supernatural. They're so natural that they seem to have superhuman ability.
Yeah, they're soups.
Yeah.
They're the boys. No, we're the boys. They're the soups.
I apologize.
No.
I had a real bad staph infection in my blood a few years ago, and the medicines they gave me screwed up my pancreas, so I get low sugar,
Do not apologize. Just take care of you. That's the main thing. I mean, we're not going anywhere. We sit here and talk. We were talking bad about you, though, so.
That's okay. I'm used to it. Gary's hard on me.
I'm terrible. I just beat him up all the time and treat him like mentally bombarding.
He does the same thing to me, Patrick, so.
Yeah, I just fire y'all all the time.
Mm-hmm. I swear, I get fired like 500 times a day, and I don't even know what I'm fired from.
Yeah, I just sent him one of them GIFs going, okay,
He said, I think we've got a lot of birds that fly around in our private chats. But
yeah,
one thing that, I think it was when you had stepped away. One point that we brought up was, if you stop and think about it, as far as everything that, those of us that do research and track and observe what we can, that we are fortunate enough to find. And, what is it that they can't do? Have we really found anything that, granted, without the physical proof, we can't say yes that they can do this. They do whoop, they do howl, they do tree knocks. We can't say that definitively because yes, we have recordings, we've got witnesses. We say we've seen it, but you still have the people out there that say that doesn't mean anything. Y'all are crazy. Yeah, you're crazy. But yeah, it makes you wonder. It gets you to that point where you're like, what can't they do? I mean, these things are fast as all get out, and
yeah, well, investigating them as a purist primitive survival list that they are. From the flesh and blood standpoint, they procreate. Okay, that means they are colonized here in the forest. Not only are they living there, they're breeding there, and they're eating. Okay, now I tracked one where it dropped a deer jawbone as it was walking. I found the jawbone by its track. So I know it's eating, so it definitely has a physical body. And so attacking that from that angle as a physical primitive survivalist being that has great skill sets. And I'm not exactly sure what the boundary of their capabilities are. But I definitely know that, they live, they breathe, they have kids, they have family, they have rules, they have sociological rules that apply within their society, and they have rules on how they engage humans. I've witnessed that. Also, they know very well their own strengths, and they know very well our own weaknesses. That's why I was saying, I kick myself for 6 months not lighting that one up in the middle of the field with a Q beam. Well, 6 months later, I quit kicking myself because I lit one up at 6 feet and you couldn't see anything but the eyes.
Yeah.
6 feet away with a Q beam. The hair the light just wrapped around the hair. Okay. Now, in the brightest spot of the Q beam, when I got closer and I'm really looking, I mean, I'm concentrating on that bright spot. You could see glistening hair in that bright spot, but you couldn't make any color out. All right. So there's something about their hair that helps them not, artificial light doesn't really refract off of it. Now, I can see how people say cloak because when I was looking at its eyes, it turned so slowly, almost like a clock hand, slow, till you couldn't see its eyes anymore. And that was a visual effect because when it turned, you can't see it. It took off running, went out 40 yards, hooked to the left, we got behind some brush, and then I could see his eyes again.
Yeah, see, the cloaking that I have an issue with is when somebody takes a picture and there's a blur, almost looks like the Predator or something, but it's not even a body shape. It's just a blob of bad pixelation.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I caught one cloaking.
No.
Well, really?
A lot of people take cloaking as, and this goes into something I can't debunk, but something I can't investigate either, is interdimensional. Mm-hmm. They take cloaking as it took this dimension and folded around it where you can't see it. That is not what I have witnessed. I have witnessed these beings, known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot or many other names, like this through the canopy, looking at you.
Yeah.
At great distances, and they move through the woods very, very well, very good. A lot of people don't even pick up on them being there. You got to really be in tune, to really and be keen enough to discern what's out there. But you have people say, well, they're interdimensional. Well, they have such great capabilities in the woods, it's great skill sets. They've achieved mythical status.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't say that at some point, some people will say at some point in time the children get to a certain age and they go live with star people. I don't know. I really don't. But what I can do as a researcher is and I don't dismiss any of this. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't dismiss woo. I don't. I take and I put all those pins that people talk about and I put them in a cluster on my little board. And then I'm still plotting along the line. I witnessed them do this. This means this behavior. I witnessed them do that. This behavior. I witnessed this physical attribute to them. So that means that they can do this. And I'm plotting along the line while I have all these pins over here and on the right corner of a board. And if I run into that, then I'll pull one of them out and put them, and really keep it in an organized fashion and manner and systematic way of investigating and researching. And that cloaking thing, it was up there on the right-hand corner of that board, and I rolled my eyes at it so many times, it almost gave me a headache until I saw what people were talking about. I'm like, oh. And I took that pin down and I put it here. And then you have to discern out, well, how did it do it? Was it magic?
That's what I was going to say. Do you think it's more of a supernatural kind of thing, or is it kind of like a defense mechanism? How like you've got, chameleons that can blend in and, hide from their predators or whatever. And it maybe it being just the way their hair is and whatnot, it creates that optical illusion mm-hmm. that they've disappeared and that they're in this whatever,
I've witnessed it once with two of them. And I didn't see anything magical happen. What I saw was light refract around something. Now they have actually a camouflage out that you can stand behind it and you look just like what's behind you, just because of the shape and the type of material they're using. Okay, so to me, that's pretty much the same, on the same level as that. I can't definitively say that it's just their hair, but that's the only avenue I have to go. If I ever get to dart one and shaving bald, I will check, the hair. But I was told that there was a report out there that they had Sasquatch hair, and that when they lit it up, it didn't refract light. And I need to dig into that.
I'll have to get my hair that I collected and see, because I was looking up. I mostly looked at it through night vision, so it was just you could see it like that. So yeah, I'll have to
Actually,
take it.
was it you and I can't remember who else was with we was talking about that? I pulled up the images of the alleged Sasquatch hair, comparing both, and it was so weird because they had one that was a Sasquatch hair and one was a polar bear, and then they compared one with a human, and the human hair had definite keratin buildup on the outer edges. Like if this was your, hair is a tubular structure. So it's like this, and you could see the human hair had a definitely hard line, of keratin buildup on the outer edge, but the alleged once again alleged Sasquatch hair was almost like thinner, and it got a little bit darker inside, but it didn't have that hard line on it. And then they compared it with a polar bear, the next image that we did, and it was similar.
Yeah.
So it almost makes you wonder, and we know that the polar bear hair is almost translucent, in its format or genetic format, however you wanted to put it. It very well could be, that would explain a lot of getting different colors and getting that camouflage type effect of being able to shine, behind it or through it, or make it. It's like you said, Pat, when you tracked that one and you caught him in the dark, 6 feet off your knee, and you shined up and you seen the light, and then all you could see was right where the beam hit. Well, if you have multiple layers of this, it's the same thing that we do when we build a ghillie suit. We're putting multiple layers. It's also the same thing that the Sasquatch does, putting multiple layers of cover in between you and it, looking through a little hole like this. He's not standing at the edge of the woods. He's standing back. But once again, when you have those multiple layers, the light will not allow it to pass through.
Yeah. It's like, the amount of experiences that I've had where I've seen their outline, their eye shine. I've seen them and I know they're sitting there. But yet I've only had one Class A sighting, because I can't really say definitively what it was, because it was just, it could have been a tree stump. It could have been the way the brush was, and it could have been some other animal that was out there looking. So, but, like you said, what you've seen, what you've experienced and what you've witnessed. And it's just like, oh gosh, why can't they just let us have a peek in the dark? Just, well, I don't want to have like, total electrical storm to be able to see them.
They don't cooperate.
I know, they're stubborn.
Okay. They don't want you to know. Their greatest asset is our ignorance. But yeah, and I quit kicking myself, because I'm like, and of course, and not bad mouth anybody going around the woods with lights looking. Okay, I think researchers have probably walked up on one in the dark, shined it, and kept going because they didn't see it.
I'm
You know?
standing right there, yeah.
Or a stump or
Mhm.
something like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
They definitely blend into the environment. I mean, that's definite, whether it's day or night.
Yeah. And that's why they stay away from you. If they know you don't know, they're not coming in daytime and giving themselves up.
Yeah.
You know, because I've seen them in the sunlight, I've seen them in the starlight. I see them better in the starlight than I do with the light shining on them. I have a lot of questions about that. You know, how come starlight? You know, really, it's not that I saw starlight reflecting off of it. I saw starlight all in the field, and it was a black mass that did not. It was flat black, and it did not. You couldn't see. You could see the outline silhouette, black mass walking back and forth. You know, I didn't have. Go ahead.
How would you compare that, like seeing it in the starlight versus the firelight?
The firelight lit her up. I didn't have a problem. Now I don't know if she was reflecting orange because of the orange light.
Mm-hmm.
In broad daylight, she's red orange. You know, but when she stepped up into the firelight, she looked the same color, her natural color. Of course, it's all flickery, but you know, I had no problem seeing her. Now her eyes were much weirder. Her eyes weren't glowing red, they were glowing the color of the fire. And they were bright. And you could see the fire dancing in her corneas, almost like her corneas are just sucking in all the light out of that fire.
Oh, she was that close?
Yeah. And she'd look at the fire and look at me, fire and me. And what it was, she'd look at the fire and she's looking around the trees around in that area and then the back at me. You know.
Were you alone on that one?
No, there was 2 other people sitting there watching it.
Wow.
2 dogs and 3 humans saw her.
How'd the dogs react?
The dogs she passed that person's property and went behind their property. The dogs were losing their mind. Okay. I mean, you know, because that kind of what tipped me off about her coming around that large area, you know, and I was just really too tired to want to deal with it, honestly. I was exhausted. And I hear these dogs light up and something's knocking out there and they're like, huh. And I didn't attribute, I was not at the level of this is a Sasquatch. I was still at this is a woodpecker, this is a woodcock, this is something out there as a known animal doing unknown behavior after dark.
Mm-hmm.
That was me at that time. And that changed in about 53 seconds. That all changed. You know, because when it come up close, she went subtle and she didn't use a stick anymore. She did this with her hand, and and I've had people say, "Well, how do you know it was her hand?" Well, it's the only thing she possessed that would make that sound on a tree to me, that cupping sound, and it was a good question, but I'm gonna tell you, when I heard it, I immediately knew that it was a hand. It's just that sound that hit me. It's a hand, and that's when I said, okay, whatever's out there has a hand, and that's when I go to my truck to strap on a weapon, and that's when she darts from 40 yards out to within 20 yards in the firelight, standing there looking, like doing this. And my son's there. My girlfriend has her speech garbled. She cannot talk. She is so flabbergasted. So she has lost her mental capacities to the point where she's sounding just sounding out sounds, but she's not making words. And I finally just had to say, shh, stop, And I turned to the boy. I said, okay, boy, you called it up here. How long you want to dance with it,
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to get in the truck. I said, good idea.
Was this Big Sam?
No, this is Sasha.
Oh, Sasha. Oh, no wonder.
This is when we went. Huh?
That's your girlfriend.
Funny.
That's why Big Sam don't like you.
Yeah, I was hey, I passed up on that, believe me. I did not want to date with her. But that was the encounter. I went from trying to debunk it. This is a known animal doing an unknown behavior to she steps in the firelight. She has hands. She has legs, feet. She has breasts, a face, eyeballs. She's standing there, and it's just, that was the scientific way that I proved what was knocking.
Yeah.
So the next knock I heard in the woods, I know what it is. I don't think, I don't have to guess. I don't kind of sort of, I know what's there, and that helps out greatly when you take your time and you do your due diligence and you take it one step at a time and you prove or disprove or debunk, is this real? Is this knocking? And in every aspect of it, building a rock solid foundation for your next level. And it's not that level is complete. It's not. It's just that you have this level that you're working with, and then you come across something else and you put that on top of it. It's all rock solid work, but then you'll come back into something later on, and it'll fit down here on level 2. Okay, here's another little piece of this.
I think you're getting picked on there, Patrick.
Hello, Pat Turner. Good to see you. I like Pat Turner.
He's a good guy.
He is real. I like real people, and he is a real person.
One thing that I think that we can't stress enough with your situation, Patrick, is you have, and y'all had talked about it earlier, had alluded to it earlier, but this is a group you've built a rapport up with for over, close to 20 years. So they're comfortable with you. I think honestly to the point that they're almost like comfortable with anybody you bring in there. But, you've told me that some people, they just don't, they'll just fade out. But, this is not the first time we've heard this. I'm doing this as long as I have, which is not very long, but I've just talked to a lot of people. You got people like Shane Carpenter and Randy Arrington over there with the 400 into the 400 with Ozark Mount Sasquatch and their documentary. Well, they've spent years, building up a rapport with that certain, for the lack of better terms, troop or family group or however you want to put it. And once again, when you build that comfort with them, I know you can do it with any animal. You can build that with primates, you can build it with dogs, you can build it with any animal. But once again, with the reactions that they're getting, the reactions that you're getting, it shows a level of intelligence that is above the norm of any known species of, say, primate or any other animal. So once again, I love how you put it in your initial contact with people is take your time and watch your P's and Q's and watch how you interact with them, and don't be so pushy, and you can build a rapport with the target species, which once again shows to me that they do have a certain level of understanding of how to interact with other species of animals. But animals do it all the time, and I understand people say that, but I have to allude back to my personal beliefs that these are a highly intelligent sociological and psychological being that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. They the problem solving capabilities, their behavior, they're not an ape.
No.
All right. They literally have genius IQ with a primitive mindset. Okay. A primitive primal mindset, because seeing you isn't enough. They got to smell you too. Okay. When you go in the woods, say you take off, go to Frog Mountain, Tennessee, and you go out there and you build a fire. What comes in there, you go into an area that people don't usually go to, doing things that people don't usually do, and you build a fire. What comes in and checks you out just doesn't come in and peeks at you. He circles downwind and smells you too. And that's when you can pick up his footfalls when he's out there, 60, 80 yards. Now, if you're in tune, and that's where becoming in tune with your environment is extremely handy, because there's an experiment you can do with that. If you're sitting at a firelight and you hear it come in, and you hear, footsteps come in from a distance up to, say, 60, 80 yards, and then it circles downwind, you got an idea what's there. if you give it some time and let it, now there's two ways you're going to attack this. And it's up to you how to do it. But you can let it have time or wait till morning and go out there and track what came in there and track it back around the way it came from it's down his back trail, or or the way it went. Or you can click your light on and go out there and meet it. Just walk out there to it, and that's a pretty good experiment. The way I found out on accident, because when I'm tracking, I was tracking a pattern that night, zigzagging along. Well, that's the same way you catch a horse that doesn't want to get caught. It doesn't know what direction you're going or what you're really looking at, and you're paying attention to ride your feet. And so when I zigzagged all the way back there, guess what? It was wanting to see what I was looking at too. Its eyes were on the ground everywhere I moved the light. So you could do it either way.
I'm sorry, but that's almost like the comical thing with Laurel and Hardy, where they're looking for the monster and the monster's right behind them, and they're it's
like
but
I said,
the truth of the matter of the fact, I mean, that literally we don't know. It's an eerie thought for me how many times I've been out in the bush alone, doing my personal survival and my personal walkabouts, and be asleep in one of these. You don't think about it until you know that their existence is here, and then you start looking for it. But and one of these might have been standing over the top of me, and never knowing. And then when you come to Ashley, we've talked about it. Patrick, we've talked about it. When you come to the realization that these are here, then your head starts being on a swivel and you start thinking about some of the crazy stuff that's happened to you in the woods. And that's like, wow. And then the more you learn the patterns by talking to folks like y'all that these things do and the responses that they do, then you really start thinking, man, how many times have they looked in my bathroom window? How many times have they looked in our tent? I laugh. Wife, how many times have we been out in the woods getting the hanky panky on and the rascals standing over the tent going, woohoo! I won't finish that term. Absolutely. You think about it. It's
okay. Who was it that we were talking to that made the statement, when you know that that's what's out there, why in the world would you go back in the woods? Somebody just recently asked us that question. And for me, it's because it doesn't really scare me. I know when to back off. I'm respectful. I'm careful. And, like when I'm actually camping and doing the research and I'm out there, I don't sleep. And it's not because, my insomnia really kicks in because my brain is working that whole time. It's not because I'm afraid it's going to come, attack me in my sleep. It's because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. And I wind up, I'll try and lay down and sleep, but I just can't go to sleep. So I wind up sitting by the fire and I wind up listening and hearing this and hearing that. And
I'm just the opposite. I'm not going to sleep because I know what's out there and it scares the hell out of me. So I'm laying there in my tent, every little snap twig 20 yards away. I'm going, ding! Whoa, here.
Wait,
like this?
Yeah. Charlie's Angels ain't got nothing on me.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm out, and I'll be out. Next month I have an event coming up, and after teaching classes or doing classes or whatever we're doing, trapping, hunting, fishing, whatever it is, by 10 o'clock I am so tired. I drag my weapon into my bedroll and I lay down, and I'm like, anything, and I tell people, don't grab me. Anything that's grabbing me is there's going to be a round coming out of that bedroll. So I literally I fall asleep with a weapon right there in my bedroll with me because I'm too tired. I can't deal with it. And also, and this experience helped me out a lot. And I know that not there's different individuals, different personalities, but the fact that I took my tracking partner to an area is the same area that I walked up within 6 feet away. our first time there. And he, I do a yell, and you hear a juvenile yelp. It sounded just like the juvenile yell that was on the audio I have now that was played on another show. It come running around and was was just inside the brush in front of the truck at pitch black in the dark. And then another one comes knocking and running and gets next to that juvenile. And my tracking partner walks out into the brush, walks within 10 feet of them, and is knocking with them. Okay. And he'd knock and they'd knock and this and knock. He did that for probably 20 to 30 minutes. And he came back, he said, man, that was kind of close. They were growling and knocking at me. And he said, do the yell again. I did the yell again. Well, he's standing outside the truck, and the big one that didn't want me yelling come up there and yelled at me at the truck. I'm sitting in the truck because I had an audio girl go with me to run audio, but she lost her mind when that one jumped in the creek and came swimming across. She lost it. So she gets in the back of the truck, and she's demanding I be in there. So I'm in driver's seat, doors open, and that one that came up, and if it was an opportunistic animal, he could have had Shorty, but he didn't. He assigned my rudeness back to me and was yelling at me and growling at me. Okay, so that sense of fair play helps me when I'm out in the woods, when I lay down in my bedroll at night with a weapon in my hand. I'm trusting that it has a sense of fair play and it won't come in and do any harm.
Yeah, I honestly believe that, like, when it comes to the harmful ones, you've got your rogues, and I think that it's the same thing it is like with human beings. It's some sort of mental instability. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they could possibly be schizophrenic, if they could be, psychopath, sociopath, whatever. I don't know if those same kind of things could go for it, but I think that there's something in them that just makes them automatically aggressive. Mm-hmm. And thank God I've never come across anything like that. Hope I never do. It's just, I'm too curious to just walk away. I want more research. I want more evidence. And like we said, listen, we're not doing this to get famous. We're doing this because we're advocates. Yeah. And we want them to be recognized, but left alone. Mm-hmm. And, it's a passion, and I love doing it. And, I love your perspective, both of y'all. I mean, the conversations that we have here and, whenever we're just goofing off or whatever, I love the mindset. It's that same mindset that we can all stick to that stays. Mm-hmm. And it's a camaraderie, and it's not that cutthroat kind of world that some other people do participate in. But I really appreciate, you coming on. And is there anything else that comes to mind that you wanted to hit on? Other than Gary? Sorry, I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, I'd like to say, and and this really is kind of geared towards the serious researcher, mm-hmm. the one that's going to go out and do this. Most everything, and I love people listening. I love people enjoying and the entertainment, value. But the information will probably only, you'd have to really be out there using it for it to be valuable. Mm-hmm. But if or when you do get out there doing what you're doing, do it safely. Yes. I'm not saying go out there and put yourself in a situation, get you killed. If you're uncertain, put the brakes on. You can always back up and regroup at another time. Mm-hmm. If you go out there and you make a mistake and something goes wrong, and I'm not saying Squatch is going to hurt you, but you could hurt yourself too. things. There are other things out there that can hurt you.
Oh yeah.
So I always see that label. Don't try this at home. If you're gonna try this, be careful and keep your head on your shoulders while you do so.
And we're not responsible for any idiotic stuff you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about what we do.
Yeah.
We're not telling you to do it, and other than be careful, please.
Yeah.
That's
Well, the last thing I'd want to do is to send someone out to harm.
yes.
I'm doing this. I'm gonna tell you, I've had nightmares. I've had some issues, and I'm this is not my favorite subject. Bigfoot is not my favorite subject. It's what I have to do for my own journey, and it's also a safety factor I'm putting out there for people. So to send someone into harm's way is not something I'd want to do.
Exactly.
So
that's very respectable. So, well, with that, I do believe we're going to go ahead and close this week's episode. Once again, Patrick, I greatly appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure. I really do enjoy talking with you and hearing about your experiences, your mindset with it. Gary, I don't know what you're up to, but thanks once again, bud, for
up on us again. And me and Patrick did our normal game live for everybody to see how we do everything we do.
yeah, we have a rule. Whoever freezes up, we get into that pose they're frozen until they come back.
I know. And I've I've gone back and I watched some of them. I was just like, oh my gosh, how can I remove that? Is there any way I could go in and just cut, put like a big blob over it or something?
My favorite was the pizza the other night.
That was hilarious. That was.
Hey, you gotta love me. Hey, look, it's done so much better tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you've done a great job tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you. But no, I mean, my internet, I was scared. I didn't think it was going to work. They were telling me I was going to have to wait on somebody, but I kept messing with it, and I got it up and running. So
awesome.
But yeah, and always, well, anytime you want to come on, we'd love to have you. And please be safe out there, and just keep on keeping on doing you, and stay safe, most definitely. Gary, thank you for all you do. And we're going to go ahead and cut out of here. Just keep your eyes out for us Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central. Expeditions for Answers. This is Ashley signing off for Central Alabama Bigfoot Research Organization. Y'all have a great week, and please be safe and be smart with all the stuff going on. Have a good one.